So Eric, now you starting the detail work.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the comfortable position, so this I think will be fine. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to just everything is basically where I kind of want it. I can make adjustments to the volumes here, but at this point, like the sort of rough shape of the face is good, so I can begin to create smaller kind of refinements. And if I want to begin to push some deeper shadows and things in, I can. Like areas way back in here, maybe I start to increase the shadows a little more. I'm gonna things like under the nose and kind of around the eyes where you have these what are called occlusion shadows. So I can start to use what I want to make sure I do is I don't want to pull values from outside the region that I'm kind of working in. Okay, I want to stick to the values that are kind of already within the sketch. So I can't use this like I'll show what not to do.
Okay.
So an area like this, right? Like I can't use this here.
Yeah.
Because it's way outside my value range. If I want to create a stronger shadow there, I need to use something that's more within that value range already. So I can use something like a darker midtone like this to start to create kind of some semi-shadows, right?
Okay.
So this midtone will then function as a shadow in a region of light. So even like over here, these midtones or even lights begin to work well as creating sort of the smaller regions that I want. So things like on the side of the mouth, these sorts of areas here, I can play constantly, like mixing with all the different tonalities that I have in the palette. I can begin to create more sort of nuanced color ranges within these areas. And so certain areas might be more gray, certain areas might be more red, but I use the colors that are all over my palette to begin to introduce more life, because if you make every blend like perfectly linear where you're just doing the same color progression everywhere, it makes the figure feel very lifeless, like your skin is not the same everywhere. Like even within me, you can see like parts that are more red, like around my knuckles and things. And as you go up my arm, right, it's more red here than it is here.
Yeah.
This is more yellow.
Yeah.
Right. So the same on the face of the figure.
But still within the same value range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly playing with the value. I'm constantly playing with the saturation in order to create something with a little more life in it. And then I can begin to soften sort of around these highlights. I'm just looking for different levels of value. Like maybe on the nose here, I can start to play with a little bit more of the kind of skin tone. Like in these sorts of areas, I introduce this, and then as I blend this together, you can see it works as the value, right? But then as I blend this more orangish tone into the blue, it'll start to meld together and create a more cohesive kind of skin tone. You can honestly like really leave this quite sketchy if you want something more painterly. But I find that just getting it at this point, like early, where you want to have all this nice variation now, you blend it together and it'll create something very cohesive. Because blending is removes, right? It removes the sharpness, it removes the detail. This is why I don't necessarily love the term blending. I like to more refer to this stage as rendering than blending, right? Blending is just making anything smooth. Rendering is defining, right? Rendering is this stage of like getting these small little volumes on his forehead, or getting these tiny little volumes around the nose and around the eye.
To make them readable and visible,
Like get the nostril here.
Yeah, and you often leave this shadow around the nose, right? To have a separation.
Yeah, so you have this quite dark shadow here that goes around the nostril, but not across the bridge.
Okay.
Right? So the bridge of the nose here, we want that to be
connected.
We can introduce some of these small shapes on his mouth. This sort of shape here, we can draw a bit of the dimples in the corner of the mouth. So we might have to grab a shadow color and exaggerate the sculpt a little bit. So here I might grab some darker tone to exaggerate the sculpt and create something more deep than the sculpt actually is, you know? So kind of drawing that. And then maybe I grab some light and I create a little bit of highlight in some area to give him more of a scowl than is even sculpted. But everything that I do now is more... You can always see that I'm working very small at this stage. I'm not trying to... Right, I don't want to lose this sharpness to the cheekbone here. I want to, if anything, I want to emphasize it more. So I'm always working in these very small patches of color and value range. And you soften it until it's...
And dilution.
It's thick.
It is always dense and...
it's not always. As I work smaller and smaller, right now I would still consider this a bit of sketching. But as I get thinner, right, as I try and do even more small adjustments, I will begin to thin the paint more also. So it goes from quite thick base layers into slowly becoming glazes. So I don't really like to think of it as like layer consistency, glaze consistency. At no point, like, where is that line between the two? For me, it's just like you slowly work a little thinner as you work smaller. So make the big changes and then slowly begin to make smaller and smaller adjustments. And one of the nice thing about this blue tone is you can see as I add the blue, it makes the more magenta colors even more warm.
Yeah.
The warmth really starts to come across, and we can push that maybe even more in some areas. Now, like maybe here, I can introduce some really warm tones.
That's nice.
Maybe like on the nose, I can push some of this a little more. maybe around the mouth a little bit. But I don't want to lose the highlight, right? So it's a darker color, so it's not going to adjust the highlights very much. But I can play just within those. So something like that. The highlight on the head, the forehead is maybe slightly off. So I might have to increase the size a little bit here because the forehead is pretty flat. So if I need to make, this is why I say it's still a bit of a sketch, because if I need to make a much larger area like this, I can just do it without worrying about like, well, I just made all this perfectly smooth and blended, and now I have to go in and change something, right? At this stage, maybe I also start to introduce like some cast shadow. So here, maybe I can start to paint like the cast shadow of his hair that goes across his forehead a little bit, and just create more interest. Always trying to create more.
Do you also work with rim lighting along the cheekbones, or to somehow render the silhouette of the face, or?
Yeah, so what I'll do now is maybe I'll start to really get some of these like the occlusion shadows on the side of the face here. And then as I think that the light will come in and it's going to hit his hair and it's going to illuminate his hair over here, that light from his white hair is going to begin
bounces back.
Yeah, it's just like if I took something white, right, like the napkin or this little palette, right, and I hold it. It's maybe the desk is too bright, but you can maybe see somehow that the light will, right, you can see in the bottle that the white reflects in the bottle.
Yeah.
Right. The same thing with his dark skin, right? So his hair is going to reflect some of that. So I might take just a bit of the glacier blue and add it to the like shadow mixture, which will give me this kind of desaturated purple tone. And I might begin to introduce some of the light from his hair reflecting in the shadow side of his face.
Very cool.
So
it's just a small change, but adds so much.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah. It really helps like frame the face also. So yeah, anything that's you want to think about the bounce light is not. It can't ever be in the light side. Like if I took, I'll do this real quick just to show you how. Like that bounce light that I just drew looks quite bright in the shadows. But if I took the highlight color and placed it over here, it's like crazy how bright it is.
This is even glossy now.
Yeah, it's way too much. His hair would need to be like metallic to do something like that. So you do want your bounce lights to be a little more subtle and stick to kind of this value side, right? It's this idea that like you see them at this level of zoom, and then when you see them at like a further away, they sort of start to go away, right? And I would make these even more
subtle,
more subtle than this. So just like all the other parts, I'd begin to blend these into each other and make this really like part of the shadows. Here I might need to. This is now feeling quite dark because I pushed the highlights more. So now maybe I need to push the light side of his face a little bit more. So maybe I just make a larger adjustment in this section in order to bring up the overall values on the light side of his face.
Yeah.
Just to further distinguish the two sides. And I'll push the highlight on his forehead a little more. Yeah, so now I'm working a little thinner, right? So it's still not a glaze, but it is semi-transparent, so you can see a bit of the layer underneath showing through. So just by thinning it out, I make more subtle adjustments to the lights. And with these highlights, I'm always looking to kind of bridge them together. I don't want to leave like islands too much, because islands can make the face look too mechanical. So if I use this kind of highlight here, I'm always looking to kind of connect it to other parts to create a more soft, and even though he's very sharp featured, like, you will have something normally bridging the tones together. And even this little section right here that was quite dark before, I can use a semi-thin paint, right, to begin to soften that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd also like to just, I don't know if I think this is like bone, but I'll just kind of base coat this to at least realize that that's not part of his ear, and give some definition there. I'll also take and grab maybe some of this color here and just begin to give some more features to the face. These landmarks, the eyebrows and stuff can help give visual landmarks to.
Yeah, and they actually change a lot.
Yeah. They can change the expression quite a bit.
And the age depends on when you paint a human person. Then you paint his eyebrows and hair gray, then it drastically changes his age.
Maybe now I'll just begin to like white out his eyes. So normally I would recommend like using a value kind of close to what your skin tone is, unless you're painting a very dark-skinned person. Where here we're dealing with the drow, so his eyes are probably going to be closer in value to his hair.
Yeah.
As opposed to his skin tone, because his skin tone is quite dark. So something like that, and then the same sort of tone will work as a value over here on this eye, because this eye is in shadow.
So you tone it down.
And because his eyes are nice and big, I can also create some roundedness to them. So I can pull some of the color that I used from this other side. And this would be more of a light value, so maybe mix these two together to create a nice value for over here, right? So I can begin to give some shape to this eyeball.
Yeah.
But the other eye is in shadow, so I don't want to overdo that one. I want to leave it shadowed, so maybe I do it just a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
And this one will go even brighter than that.
Badass.
Yeah. Here, maybe I want to add a little bit of warmth to the skin on sort of the side. You don't really get much of the highlight value over here, so maybe just a little bit of warmth, warmer skin tone on that side. This like warmer mid-tone, just to give a little bit of shape over here. So that warmer tone works as like an intermediate value to at least like give some shape, but it's not a reflection. So you don't want to go too bright blue. We don't want to step into these blues that we're using, because these blues are really, we're trying to save these just for these like really bright sort of reflective areas. All right, so things like up in here, we can kind of push these a little bit more. So I think about this as like two separate highlights, right? So it's like there's one highlight in the corner of his eye, there's another highlight on his cheek, and then these kind of radiate out from there, and then they sort of connect together.
Yeah.
Right. So this highlight and maybe this highlight right here, so you get like a third highlight even, and then a fourth highlight kind of on the tip of his nose, maybe one here up on the bridge.
Yeah.
And then maybe this one comes down like this and sort of under his nostril, and then you get these little ones on his upper lip. And one on his lip, maybe one in the corner of his mouth, one on his chin. So you can see that we can push that highlight smaller and even brighter, and it actually, by pushing the highlight even more, it makes the rest of his face look even darker in context.
Yeah. Very cool.
So it's giving him that kind of shiny look. Right, so we have multiple highlights going on here, where there's this larger one on his forehead, and then these smaller little bumps that are around. And then as we begin to soften these out, they start to join together a little. So something along those lines. This is really my favorite part of painting face, is this highlight step that creates the, right? We did the first part in, I don't know, a couple minutes just to get like the overall general shape of the face, and now it's like this is really where the nuances and little details of the face come in. But I haven't lost that initial shape of like the light comes down here across and then down and under his chin, right?
Very cool.
Because his chin is quite sharp, we want this blend from the jaw to be really sharp also. It's like very angular, so the blend itself should be quite short in order to achieve something that is short also. Basically, like the more rounded an object is, the longer the gradient should be, and the more sharp an object is, the sharper it should, like the shorter it should be. Even something here, maybe now we take and do the same thing that we did with this, but now it's reflecting maybe off of his neck or off of the upper part of his armor, and we can grab a color like this, and we can kind of maybe add a bounce light under his neck, just to create some more subtlety there.
Yeah, cool.
But you can see that this still is in the value range of shadows, where this is in the value range of lights. So being careful not to cross over from one to the other. I think this is too bright. And then I'll begin to soften that out. restore the Terminator there.
Mm-hmm.
These are always the hardest parts, that for me anyways, are these parts that are not quite light, they're not quite shadow, they're like true midtones. So you have to decide like exactly where that transitional area is. Otherwise it ends up looking it's just like too sharp or something. Like you need those, you need these areas that are kind of neither, right? You're always going to end up with some planes that are like right on the transition point. And how do those look next to light and shadow? Okay.
Very nice, yeah. I mean, it is still a lot of contrast, yeah, but it is not mistaken as a polished material or a metal, yeah. And I find it sometimes very hard to hit the sweet spot where things turning into very reflective material and still look like natural organic material, yeah. And basically this is still very contrasting, yeah. You have very bright highlights and still very strong shadows, but it never tends to look like a metal, yeah. This is a very thin line sometimes.
Yeah, it can be really, yeah, you're kind of dancing a thin line between making him look too shiny. Like, I don't want him to look like he's sweating, you know. He's not like wet,
Yeah.
right? But he is got some more reflective parts, right? So something like that, and then I would begin to work just within everything that I've mixed on my palette already. I just now begin to work even thinner, and I controlled the dilution on the palette, so you could see that this is, and I can show on my thumb, right, that this is now like quite thin. So I we'll begin to load the brush, and I want to just start to soften these transitions even more. And this is like, I'm always working now in this very small sort of area, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to start back here and blend. I want to start right here and just blend this tiny little transition, right? It's just like, can I soften just this small little area? Because otherwise you change the shape of the face, and I like the shape of the face that he has right now, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
If you try and blend too much, you alter the shape. And I really love now that, like, you can start to take some of these more saturated tones and begin to play by glazing these in, and I can start to blend with some of these. So maybe now, like in here, maybe I start to introduce a little more warmth. So as I blend, I'm also, or glaze even, I'm glazing in these other colors that I have around in order to add more variation back into the skin tone still. So yeah, it's like painting in, I get the value working right, which is always kind of the hardest part, and then you begin to introduce color as you go. Maybe around his lips he needs a little more reddish, so I can mix sort of the magenta and the skin tone together, and this is going to look like a lot, like this is probably too much.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do it kind of thin, it won't, it'll be like semi-transparent, like all you can see on my finger here. I can start to introduce some of this color, and this will dry quite bright and really alter the tone. But then as I blend that together and I start to patch it more, it'll start to mix into the color next to it and begin to work. But as long as the value's right, I think you can really play with this sort of spot color quite a lot.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah.
So now take some of the violet, right, to darken this down. And begin to work this now into the shadows. I need to push the white of his hair a little bit just to get a sensation of the contrast of his hair with his skin. So you can see if his hair is going to be that bright, suddenly the blue highlights on his face don't feel so intense anymore. Like if this is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you always have to be reading it within context of the other parts, or else it can get really lost within the overall scene. Just push that. Get this looking good. And I think even that's enough to, I'll always like come back and make further adjustments to the hair and really start to push the texture and everything in the hair. But I just want to see, like even here, how the shadows of this part of the hair work against the shadows of his eyes, right? Like the darker part of his face. And then if we take something like this, right, we have all this bright highlight on his forehead, but then we give him these like bright white eyebrows, that now we have this more cool bluish highlight. Something like that.
Yeah. Very cool, man.
So we just keep going on this in this sort of process, and it's you could even stop, like realistically you could kind of stop here if this was good enough for you, but it's this idea of like get 80% of the work done in 20% of the time, right? This 80-20, like knock out 80% of and get it most of the way there, and then it's how long do you want to sit and make every little transition like perfect, and that's what takes forever. It's just this like, okay, I want this to be smoother. I want this, like this is too harsh for me, so I start to grab something in between and I mix these little grays, and it's like here I want to round this over slightly, so I just make the tiniest little adjustment to round this volume, right? And it's such a small thing, but it can do a lot to refine, right? This idea of rendering. How rendered do you want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
Even this tiny little line that right there, that itty bitty little wrinkle. Like, oh, it's too dark, right? So I can take a value that's in between. I can
Fade it a bit away, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there,
Yeah.
but it's slightly faded out now. Bring some highlight back. Maybe here I want to adjust that dimple a little bit. So I'm always like making these small adjustments to the volume and the rendering on the face. Here maybe I push just a tiny bit of light like up around his eye to make his eye even sharper. I can start to kind of give some shape to the upper eyelid there. Maybe even use some of the skin tone sort of color that I used in the hair. We give him these crazy eyes. Or on the shadow side, I'm taking maybe just this eyelid just happens to catch some light. We can, So really, really tiny things just to pull the attention to where I want. Let's see, one other little adjustment, right? So here I'm going to take the magenta on his nose. I'll begin to soften this out and push some color there. But then he has light under his nose, right?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite bounce lights.
Yeah, so you can bounce some light under here. But you also often can you switch to the camera of me?
Yeah.
So right now you can see the lights like really coming in from this lamp and lighting up this side of my face, right? But if we take a flashlight, from my phone or whatever, and I do like this, right? I'm gonna stick it like right up to my face. You can see that like there's this sort of transition where the light is like really saturated around the light source. So even within the like nostril, you can see here that like the bottom side of this is quite really high saturation. So because your skin is like semi-transparent, we can introduce a little bit of that into the skin in order to give that sensation that is like his skin's not hard plastic. His skin is has some transparency to it, right? So just like before, where I just begin to glaze in between, I'm gonna just like introduce a more saturated kind of purplish tone here to give that underlying warmth to his skin. And then as I move up into the highlights, now I have to soften it and make it a little more gray.
Yeah.
Easy,
Erik, ja.
Easy, yeah. It's so easy.
It's so easy, ja.
Yeah, just do the thing. Same here. You get a little bit of thinner skin from the cheekbone, right? Maybe you have some thin skin here on the little eyelid section. So yeah, it's fun to play with these sorts of colors and the thinner areas of the skin in order to create those warmer sections where the light is like I mean, this is what we're doing in the ear, right? The light passes through the top of this, and it creates this more warm light here, sort of at the top, and then as I move down the ear, so right at the top where the light passes through this is going to be quite red, and then we'll go, as we go down the ear, I'll reduce that. So we introduce a more grayish light that then blends together with the pinkish tone. So once we're done blending, it's left with just this more saturated area. We have lots of fun little nuances. Like make it work from the beginning with just blocking, and then introduce the nuance. Similar to in kind of the way when I imagine you approach non-metallic, right? Is like you block in the kind of major reflections first, and then you start adding these secondary reflections, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So here we're kind of doing the same thing, but with bounce lights and smaller alterations in color and value to get all the little micro details.
Yeah.
So here, right, this is always when I see someone paint, like, we're left with this thing that right here, this sort of curve right here on the nose and between the nose and the tear duct, and it looks like it's a shadow, right? But we never painted a shadow there. We painted light there.
Yeah.
So at no point did I actually paint in the shadow. It's the negative of what is left around it because I added highlights. So this negative space of light now feels like a shadow, even though it never was. It never was. Okay. Ja.
Ist gut, Erik.
Ist gut, ja. And you can see how much more subtle the bounce light looks from this.
But it's still readable. Yeah.
It's still there. Yeah. It's like these little things you find when you start to inspect up close, right? It's like they're there, but they're not in your face. Like the in your face part should be the more dramatic light, not so much the little details, right? People get stuck in the details
too early.
Too soon. Get the general shape in first, then you can begin to focus on the details. Right? I'm seeing parts that I did a bad job base coating on the neck. Now that I'm wearing glasses. But we can kind of play with the idea of like his hair maybe is casting a bit of a shadow here. We can darken some of these parts. We can darken around sort of the back of the ear here. And just play with some of the value in shape to his chin. Yeah. Very angular. He's angry.
A bit, yeah.
Hunting surface dwellers. Do you know much of the lore of Dungeons and Dragons?
No, not really. Actually, we started playing D&D with my neighbors here, but I'm a bloody rookie, so it's my first time ever in D&D. It's quite fun, but I absolutely have no clue what I'm doing.
So the drow are they live in the Underdark, which is like a whole world underneath the surface. So they're like cavern elves, and they go on night raids onto the surface because their skin is very sensitive to the sun, and their eyes are very sensitive to the light. So they go on night raids. So it felt like appropriate to give him a very moonlight kind of feeling.
Therefore the cold highlights.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't make sense that he
Is out in the
has a
daytime.
sunbath outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could do this for another
Yeah,
2 hours.
I know that. Yeah.
and like really like try and make everything like super perfect, but I think this
You don't have to. This
Yeah.
is super nice already.
yeah, this gives sort of the idea. So cool. Yeah.